So they pick up the Leshrac, okay. And then on the Infinity side, we've already seen Dodd play for them previously, but they do also have Oscar in here instead of Frank in the off lane. So, I'm not really going to make a comment in terms of, which one's better than the other, but both Frank and Oscar, unbelievably experienced offlaners in SA, so, you may have lost one vet, but you slot in another one, although, as of right now, we don't know exactly what Oscar is going to play, but, like Frank, he sometimes... okay, that did not lead into the point I was trying to make. He sometimes plays the boring offlaners, right? We've seen a lot of sort of Tide and Centaur out from those two heroes. That is neither one of those, though. That is a straight-up Pudge pick for Infinity.
Yeah, and that makes you still question their lanes, wonder what's coming out, because it could still be offlane Snapfire, 5 Dawnbreaker, what looks like carry Pudge. The only thing we
Mhm.
know is the number's going mid. That's about it at this point. Yeah, I think Infinity have drafted themselves some great heroes versus the Broodmother. I think that's going to be a lane that Speed is really going to struggle in. And I do worry about the Leshrac pick ever so slightly, just because, of course, you don't have very much save. That save is going to come through items like the Greaves and the Pipe coming from the Broodmother, and then it's just going to be about those global silences. It's pretty much as simple as that. So there's a little bit of coverage there, but more or less, Red 2 is going to have to be very conscious of his positioning on the map. I think this is a situation where when it comes down to those tower pushes, you can't afford to mess up. You can't afford to play too heavily into Infinity, especially now that the Pudge is there. All it is a simple slight chains into a Pudge hook, into you being in way too deep, and the rest of your team either dies with you or it dies with you. Even though interesting bans. Okay, they
Yeah.
take out the NP and the LC.
I do like that Nature's Prophet ban, though, because this was something that we saw from Infinity on the first day of group stage. Their win in that opening series that they split 1-1. They got that win by really pushing the tempo in that game. They had a Prophet. I think they also picked up a puck in that game. So their plan was, hey, let's fight early, let's fight often. They took it in 20 some odd minutes, and that's the only win that they've got so far. So this is not quite the same sort of strategy in terms of just how much mobility that previous one had, but if the Ember, if the Pudge get off to a good start in the lanes, it feels like they could quickly sort of swing that same kind of early momentum.
Yeah, now just sitting here looking at the bans, and okay, they
Morphling.
decide to respect the DNM Morphling. There is one hero that I think did sneak through though, and that's the Ursa. I feel like if 5RAT want to, that's probably the simple, easy pick. They get Ursa Lesh, as we sometimes like to joke around, kind of a perfect lineup. One guy kills the Roche, the other guy kills the buildings. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. I think the only reason they would avoid that type of hero is if they're really afraid of the Snapfire offlane or whatever is going to come here. Now let's see.
Hmm.
Okay, Slark. Similar, but a little bit different, a little bit more team-oriented. Will definitely help out with his Leshrac surviving in a lot of these situations, even though I think he is marginally worse versus the Pudge, just because early on, of course, you don't have that much HP to work with. You do kind of just straight up die to the rot. But again, to help out his teammate, to throw down the Ag Shard, to use the Death Shroud, great pick with Leshrac.
Hmm. Yeah, the only concern is that the Slark, it's kind of an in and out sort of hero, attacks around the edges a little bit, so now you're looking at Lesh and Brood having to maybe be a little bit more personally responsible for their own durability, but the Brood's probably going for that sort of Greaves defensive build, and the Leshrac could just grab like one defensive item and probably be okay in most situations, although that does change it up a little bit here. Infinity closed things out with the Primal Beast pickup, so looking at who's picking what, that is going to be Oscar on the off lane Primal. So now that Slark lane could kind of become a lot less fun.
Yeah, it's also where the silencer is really going to be helpless. It's where if Infinity execute their early game clean enough, it's going to result in kills. You're either going to kill him or AB1. There's just no good way to survive in that lane. And they get even more magic damage. They are just looking to get levels and then run at you, basically. The most expensive item a lot of these heroes are going to be looking for are the BKB and, of course, the Ags and the Pudge. But all in all, pretty cheap things to work with. It's where 5RAT are much greedier. You need Ags on the Slark. You need Bloodstone on the Leshrac. You need Blink Dagger on Tiny. You need a ton of net worth to contest with what I think Infinity are bringing to the table here. And then, of course, you can respond to one of Infinity's tools with the Global Silence, but that's where it is going to be up to Infinity to pace out this game and stagger their cooldowns and make sure to actually punish the lack of Global Silence, where if they see a hero pushing too far forward, if they see Red 2 on the map when that Global has already been used, well, that's going to be the play to look for, I think, in this game. And if Infinity decide to be a little bit too passive, or they give 5RAT a little bit too much time, this game can get very difficult very quickly for them. It's where 5RAT are just going to constantly be looking for that space.
Yeah, this is a 5-rat lineup that can do some work if they're given the time and space to farm. So Infinity got to play up, got to walk that fine line though, right, between up tempo and just out of control. Because we have seen plenty of teams just try to sort of run at their opponents over and over again, and if that backfires, all of a sudden you don't have a backup plan. So see how this one plays out. Both teams looking to, well, put a couple more wins on their tally. Both teams 1-1 so far, so obviously we are so early in the group stage right now. There's no sort of do or die moments, but I'm sure people are getting sick of us saying it by this point, ET, how many, Pro Series in, but
Don't you sass me.
a win now gets you the points, and then maybe you don't have to worry a couple days from now when we're on the back end, and all of a sudden you say, oh, we need to win this or else we're out.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, in the past two BTS Pro Series, that second phase has gotten drastically shortened. I think it went from what typically was 10 to 12 days to being severely reduced as DNM gets hooked, doesn't get the pounce off either. Well, okay.
Sad times for the Slark. First blood to Dodd. Not quite the naked ring of health rush that we saw earlier in Pro Series, but he gets a little bit more gold going his way.
Yeah, and a ward on Infinity's side that is very unlikely to get dewarded as well, because it's placed on the other side of the river. That was just great. That was just a fantastic hook. I don't know. Not too much to say about it. A little bit of all chat thrown in there as well. Wheel style presente. Nice. But here we go. Looks like we're going to see a little bit of a skirmish here on those bottom runes.
Ooh. That does technically have the range for this hook. He's going to go for it. Okay. It's got the range, but the accuracy is not quite there. Good split between Red 2 and Speed, and they do avoid another confrontation. Speaking of confrontations, though, Genic, he got hit up pretty hard here, trying to contest for the rune. Came prepared, though. 2 full stacks of tangos, so he is going to heal back up quite nicely, but they are going to lose the ward.
Yeah, it felt pretty easy for AB1, even though AB1 does have to make a choice. And okay, in deciding to block out that large camp means that the small camp is going to be remaining closed for at least the first little while here.
Interesting choice to make there, but I guess we'll just see how well DNM sort of last hits in the early stages, and whether that's something AB1, I'm not going to say comes to regret, but maybe has to go back and sort of undo later on as Oscar. First point up in the uproar, just trying to sort of, trade some right-click damage when he can, but at this point, ET, we kind of know how this works, right? Primal Beast as well as Snap, they're going to wait till, maybe level 3, level 4, then they'll make their move.
Yeah, definitely. It's where they're just lasting. They're just putting some pressure onto DNM, some really good kind of combined denies, but it's also where DNM not being able to sculpt the Essence Shift at level 1 means that the Slark has to wait as well. So Oscar has a much easier level 1 versus the Slark. It's just kind of okay going into a lot of these trades.
Meanwhile, taking a look at the other side lane here. Well, how much is this duo here of Brood and Tiny going to be able to do? You see Prada already trying to sort of push forward and act as that disruptive influence. Normally, your Broodmother just kind of likes to take control of the lane and just dominate it throughout. Up against this duo, ET, do you think that Speed's going to have the ability to do that?
Honestly, not really. It's a very difficult lane for the Broodmother. The bodies are just a little bit too strong. There's just too much raw HP between the two of them. It's where maybe if Prada gets a little bit greedier or gives away too many of his tangos, they could find a kill onto the Dawnbreaker. But there's also a ticking clock there on the Pudge kill, because as soon as he gets Phase Boots or Vanguard, that kill gets pretty much impossible. So I think this is really just going to be 5RAT just dragging creeps back, trying to not get denied too much. It's also where Nick in the tree throw is just going to try to get every single range creep. But look at this. Damage traded, but that's where Nick with the Avalanche should always be able to get speed out. But nice hook from Dad. A little bit more right-click damage, but Wave's pushing in. This is all they're looking for.
Just had to sort of eat that damage and wait it out, so speed is going to be okay, but where... Oh, never mind. Just a push for the ring. Makes sense.
Feels good to be this good.
But now, he's got his Ring of Health up and running, so he's looking good in that lane. Speaking of looking good, though, this is actually slightly earlier than I thought that they would go in. Only had the 1 point in the trample on Oscar, but the full combo out from the Snapfire maybe gives them a little bit more to work with, and obviously AB1, the absolute weakest hero in that lane, really in the game even. They're able to bully him pretty easily.
No, it's a play that will always come. And now, with that kill, Oscar's looking at his boots of speed. It's where the pressure is always going to be there as long as there is mana on Infinity. It's where AB1 still has to be very careful, even though it's really close and he does get control of his small camp at the very least. The wave is pushing out, so Gannick's just going to look to interrupt, where DNM has to walk over, and Oscar's going to get a real easy, what looks like level 4.5, something like that.
And Dodd on the other side is going to get himself taken down. Interesting play there. Prada wrapped around behind. They were going to try, not really sure which of the two they were going to go on, but they were going to try something, and Nick just decides, hey, for like 2 seconds, we've got Pudge alone. They go for the 2v1 and they win it.
Yeah, it's a lane where without the chainmail, he really can just go down that easy as another kill. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen as well. It's just this sad, sorry state. It's where the last but Primal Beast is just great from Infinity. They're going to keep on feeding off this top lane, while Oscar just gets to farm basically underneath his tower. He's got 3 range creeps pushing in. He's just got this bottle of XP just coming at him.
He is looking pretty good, but back down bot. Dodd in trouble again. Same maneuver. They just go in, recognizing Prada can't do really anything. If the Starbreaker gets canceled, then he's done. And honestly, at this point, depending on how much damage they get on the Pudge, even if the Starbreaker connects, speed with the speed from the web just keeps chasing anyway.
Yeah, it's the kind of weird, but is just working 2 points up in the Insatiable Hunger, paired up with the Orb of Corrosion. It just, I think, caught them off guard. And the Pudge, who only has 4 armor, tried to fix the problem with the Ring of Protection. It kind of just threw away his lane. He's going to be coming back to a Broodmother who is almost level 5, is looking at her level 6. You're not even level 4. I mean, I feel like 5RAT are just extremely happy with what's happening with speed right now. Even though Nick hasn't been able to really have an effect on mid, he probably will at that 6-minute turn. As top, it happens again. It's where the offlaners, they're just falling out of control. They're just doing so well in their respective lanes.
They have been set up for success, and Gannick, with the 2nd point in the scatter, may have made the difference there, getting that last bit of damage in for the kill. Speaking of kills, yeah, Prada just trying to do a little bit of scouting, trying to protect the rune spawns, and technically speaking, he's successful. Invis rune spawns to the north, and Leo Style was able to grab it, so, you know, the death wasn't for nothing, but it is still a death. Pretty easy one for the 5RAT side, but now if you're Leo Style, actually, I was going to say with the Invis rune, maybe you make a rotation, but ET, you take a look at the way he's skilled up to try and deal with the Lesh in this lane. No points in the Searing Chains, so not really sure he wants to rotate. He is really set up to lane this out.
Yeah, and the reason why he's going for this build is because eventually, if he does end up in the Broodmother's lane, you want more points in Flame Guard, just because, of course, you slight the spiders, you still get that Flame Guard aura around you while you're slighting, so it means that you can actually subtly clear out the spiders a little bit more effectively. But it does make it a little bit more difficult for him to gank, even though right now, he's just farming. Everybody's just farming. What an even game. Both offlaners balling out of control, both carries already in recovery mode, and mid is effectively a draw. This is like the most even start I think we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of used to just one team starts taking the lead and just kind of holds it for a long while. That was the case in quite a few of those Phase 1 matches. But, well, we're 7 minutes in. Plenty of time for someone to pull away as right on cue, Speed getting aggressive again. They take down Prada, and now Dodd, yeah, you have no backup. No mana. There's a TP in from Genic, but it's too late already, and now Genic, I don't know if you want to be here. Is there any mana left? No. Oh, Speed. Pops the Mango, keeps on chasing. They know Genic already used his combo, so he has no spells to work with. They are going to lose the snap. Up in the top lane, DNM, though, does get jumped in on again. So they're able to take him down. AB1 gets a little bit of revenge there in the end, finishing off Oscar, but... I was going to say, actually, you lose DNM, but honestly, across the map, what is that, like 3 or 4 kills in total? So it does suck for DNM, but for the rest of the team, it's going great.
Yeah, triple kill for Broodmother as, ooh, great hook. That was just completely set up by himself. That was just Dodd's raw skill. Unfortunately, though, Dodd's given up on that bottom lane. He does not feel like he can exist there versus the Broodmother. But what are you going to do? Play versus the Slark, who's just going to sit there and essence shift you? It's where Dodd doesn't really have any lane to rotate to right now. So the Pudge feels a little bit out of place. Just kind of lost his lane so hard that he isn't able to stay where I think they drafted him to stay. And they might try to get aggressive here on DNM. Nice rotation in from Leo Style, but finds the pounce angle. I think he's stuck, though.
Yeah, no way out of the tree line now. Should be taken down as Leo Style gets the kill. AB1, this is not where you want to be. This is almost certainly going to be another death as Oscar over on the other side of the map jumps in alongside Prada. They're able to take out Speed, so just like that, 3 kills Infinity's way, but look at Red 2, wants into the fight, missing though onto the Ember Spirit, and now they're going to try and fight this one out. Prada comes in with the Solar Guardian, they've got the Dismember onto Red 2. This Leshrac, not a lot of HP, has to fight it out, won't be able to survive. Nick wants the Dodd kill and does get it, but it's going to cost him his life as well.
Oh, it's so close to
DNM.
being a good play.
And he gets something. Bounce, first right click. Okay. Very hesitant there, and yet Prada throws the tip his way. I don't think he needed to be that cautious, ET, but obviously we see the whole map and they don't, so besides, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, it's also just, you're Slark, you're a very slow hero. You're actually even 10 MS slower than the Dawnbreaker. But yeah, oh, the pound, you just respawned. He TP'd for that rune. Oh no. 5RAT are losing a little bit of control here. Is playing into it a little bit too much, and Oscar's making all the plays he needs to make. He's really, I think, the big winner of this early game, and you gotta be careful. Give him a few more kills. I mean, that BKB is coming out at a blistering speed, and he has become that answer versus the Broodmother. He is just ready to play.
Just gets right on top of the Brood with max trample, and in a lot of circumstances, you assume Speed will have the speed to get away, but that means he has to run instead of fighting it out, so... A lot of fighting in the early stages, right? 20 kills in 10 minutes, but no one's been able to definitively pull away. Genic and Leo Style, though, are making a move onto DNM. They got the kisses, they've got the root, the globals. Well, it's going to be enough for now. DNM still got to run, 10 seconds for Pounce, but he gets rooted up a second time. Leo Style, though, realizing there's other heroes here, does back himself away. But hey, that's global silence being used, so now there really isn't any sort of aggressive potential for 5RAT to use that for.
Yep, and with their Soul Guarding coming up right now, it means that a play is going to work. Either a chain setup or a cookie is going to end up landing with that Dawnbreaker able to get there on the ground. But, okay, they decide to be a little bit patient. Prada is still primed. He's just sitting in the trees looking for it. And look, bottom, they're doing it, and it's just going to work on a speed. That's unfortunate, but, I mean, they checked every single box. That was their perfect play.
Mm-hmm. No silencer, no problem. I mean, no backup even, right? They've got some nice vision on their own side of the river here to make sure that anyone crossing over would have been spotted. So they knew Speed was entirely alone there. And the good news for Speed is that he is still farming just at a stupidly high pace. Still the top net worth hero, even with those couple of deaths. But his teammates are looking to fight something without him. But Leo Style is just too hard to bring down. He's able to jump away. He jumps right into AB1, though. The DOT's on him. And Leo Style still goes down, so right place, right time for the silencer, able to contribute without using his ult there, which he didn't have, but fact remains, he gets a nice bit of gold, gets his arcane boots. Now Genic is probably going to die for that bounty rune. Can he pull off a deny play to the neutrals? No, he cannot.
Yeah. Just a little bit far forward. Feels confident to be in that area of the map because they have the high ground ward up there, but it's a nice punish, even though just a kill that ends up not mattering all too much, but also they don't end up giving away their ward because DNM guesses a little bit too high. He's trying to feel it out with the Shadow Dance, but I think he's going to miss. But now we're back into that waiting game. Global's back up. Infinity need to make a poke play to force out the Global. Otherwise, they're stuck, unable to use any of their abilities. They could just simply decide to do another trade, though. Trade Mortimers for Global. They could do that, try to set that up again, but it's where they do need to be that more aggressive team. I think right now, they're trying to wait out for Oscar to finish up his BKB, but as soon as he has that item, can only imagine seeing them smoking, running across the map, because they do kind of have to get this game going a little bit. Dodd's about to finish up his Ags as well, only maybe 600 gold away, just farming an Ancient stack. So really, everything's kind of syncing up for Infinity.
And this is going back to a little bit of what we talked about in the draft. We mentioned in the early stages of this game how many kills have been going down, but also that neither side had really pulled away much. That's not what Infinity wanted. They want the pace, but they need the control that should be coming with it. So, as you said, BKB up on Oscar, 500 gold away, that's go time. You do still have to deal with the global silence, but as you also mentioned, they could just try and bait it out really right here. Multiple heroes hanging out in the river, now would be a great time, but they don't really have the means to immediately force the issue.
Yeah, and in goading out that global silence, they don't want to kill a core. They don't want to stick out Leo style or Oscar so far that they end up dying and it ends up becoming a great play for 5RAT. Because 5RAT don't really have too much lockdown, but look top, okay? Mortimer's traded, DNM gets the walk away, but now they're going to look for a play with the Primal and the Dawnbreaker. Same thing as before, Prada even has the smoke if they do want to look at top.
And there's the BKB finished off. Timings are really coming together for Infinity. Of course, on the other side, that is the Bloodstone finished off by Red 2. So all of a sudden, the Leshrak's ability to be involved in these fights does take a sizable step forward. DNM just got the Echo Saber brought out to him as well, so both sides getting a little bit of a power up here, but who makes the first move? Leo Style gets the root down. Genic is going to really try to commit for this, but they jump into an avalanche, and this is getting a little bit complicated. They're chasing after Lil Nick. There's a secondary root coming in, and they will be able to take him down, but they wanted more. Oscar, though, kind of jumps the gun. Didn't activate his BKB. He'll pop it now, but now it's too late. That's unbelievably awkward, especially with Prada still coming in. The Solar Guardian just puts him right in the middle of 3, and teammates getting their wires crossed there. 2 or 3 go after the little Nick kill, whereas the secondary initiation just turns into a suicide mission.
Yeah, and pretty insanely there, as that ward actually gets taken out, the Leshrak just barely stood in that little bit of a cone of vision, of nighttime vision, where that Earth Splitter actually ends up landing. Very unfortunate, because if he gets that BKB off, reacts to the Leshrak, well, then we've got a Primal Beast. We've got a BKB Primal Beast running around in the fight. Nobody to contest him, but instead, he just goes down early without being able to do anything. Even casts his BKB at the end there, just dies to the physical damage, so pretty much worst case scenario for Oscar.
9-second BKB charge was not used until he had like 5% of his health remaining, so unfortunate play. Dodd, though, gonna try to get a little bit back, but Nick got a split second there to get Avalanche off after the hook connected, so maybe he can walk this out. Still taking some damage, but the pipe barrier is irrelevant. Oscar jumps in, gets the kill. Now they've got the Dismember onto speed. I don't know if the Pulverize was necessary there, but they didn't want to let that spider slink away. But now, Red 2, you have revealed yourself in this fight. Can he walk away? Not if Oscar charges. But since he doesn't have Pulverize, they don't have lockdown. Just trying for the body blocks, but the root comes in. Leo Style has the lockdown in AB1. He's going to try. There's going to be the global, but I don't think it matters. The trample is not canceled by it, and he got it off before. Oscar does die for that play, but they're going to be happy with it overall. Infinity take, oh, another kill and maybe more. Do they want to dive the tower with DNM TPing in? It's looking a little bit iffy, but Genic says we're going. Let's get this kill. They did end up paying for it, though. Prada will fall, and now I think Genic may end up going down, too. So a little bit of greed, and ET, part of me wants to say, really all that does is even out the kill count overall, except DNM was the one to get both of those final 2 kills.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty bad feed. You give DNM a lot of gold, a lot of experience, and not just DNM though. You also give it over to Nick, who just occupies the lane now with his heroes respawning. So you get closer to that Ags, you get closer to that Blink Dagger. Really, they kind of just threw a recovery to 5RAT. It was definitely an overextension that I think Infinity are gonna regret.
And taking a look at the graphs, once again, they build up a tiny little lead there, 1k, and then, as you can see, we're pretty much back to even at this point. This, though, could help them swing things their way again. Nick is going to get jumped in on. Defensive Avalanche, though, creating a lot of problems, but they just power through. They find the kill, but Red 2's here. He wants to punish this. Force the BKB, maybe? No. Oscar simply walks away, and Red 2, he knew there were 4 heroes there, so didn't want to go too much further than that, considering his own BKB is quite a ways off.
Yeah, and Infinity, they've hit another little spike here. BKB finished on the Ember Spirit as well. They're looking for speed, at the very least, to clear off these spiders, but Slark's going on the other side.
Rada's doing a little bit of dancing. Infinity just trying to get everyone out. Does Dodd go for a defensive hook here? He does, but it's actually an offensive one because he pulls DNM. Can actually kill him. They're going to try for the Mortimer Kisses off the back of that hook play. DNM is dropped down and taken out. Here comes Leo Style on the back end, getting the root onto AB1. As the fight is starting to split, Speed is trying to make his way out of this engagement, but that does mean his supports are kind of left in the lurch, and they're able to get the first kill, but there's Leo Styles' BKB. Gets him out of that toss initiation. How much further do they want to go? Hook coming in, gonna connect onto Nick. Speed still hanging around, trying to do what he can to help. Oscar is dropped low, but the BKB comes out from him, and he's gonna walk away. Dodd, though, tries to go for the Dismember, canceled immediately by Red 2, and they need backup. Dodd is getting too low. They're gonna lose him, and the rest of the lineup will try to TP away.
Yeah, a little bit of greed. Definitely a punish there, and Leo Style also has to be careful here, but I think with the Leshak TPing bottom, he'll be A-okay, even though his TP was staggered ever so slightly, and the trades just keep coming. I think Speed does a fantastic job in that fight, tiptoeing around, doesn't let anything connect, stays alive for a very long time, but you also get to feel that it's still a little bit too early for DNM to partake in this game. It's where there's still too much magic damage. He's just a little bit too fragile. He can't get that snowball going where he just immediately starts eating through heroes as soon as he's on the Shadow Dance. And even in Shadow Dance, he's just eating way too much damage.
Yeah, you saw, right? They hit him with the hook. Don't even really pay full attention to him. They just start dropping the kisses, and it's enough to bring the Slark down. Of course, if he gets this Aghanim Scepter finished off in a minute, having the second and longer pounce honestly could solve some of those problems. It doesn't realistically make him more durable, but it does help that sort of bob and weave kind of in and out strategy for him. So it's a roundabout solution, ET, but you know, it'll work. It'll help.
No, it definitely will. It's also where DNM does have his Ags. As soon as he has the Staff of Wizardry coming out, probably just going to disassemble his Echo Saber and then turn the Oblivion Staff into a Mage Slayer, which will also really help, give him a little bit more magic resistance, but also just reducing the damage of either the Pudge or the Ember when he does just get to sit there clicking him. Really, there's only one way to go for the Sark, even though we're still in that waiting game a little bit.
Gags is finished up, so he's got a little bit more to work with. Meanwhile, the Sleight of Fist from Eternity, Jesus, it is hitting every single Spiderling, so honestly, that really messed up 5RAT's timing. They had all the heroes in position to try and jump, but because the Sleight takes so long, Genic's able to get in position and decide, let's not actually try this.
Yeah, but there's also Blink Dagger coming out from Nick. He's got a smoke as well. This is the big tiny moment here with Leshak as well. You can combo it with Split Earth, so a play they're going to be looking to make, but this is the first time that they've been out onto the map in a position where they might want to global aggressively, but they just have to be so careful. If they miss that initial pick, if they don't end up having enough damage, then they're at the whim of Infinity's ultimates. So where AB1 has a pretty tough decision to make, even though it looks like any of that posturing is just going to evaporate as both teams decided to kind of split across the map a little bit.
But now, while they wait, that's a BKB picked up from Dodd as well. So that is every single core on the Infinity side having a BKB against the Silencer lineup. So you really got to be careful here. AB1 has to be exceptional with his timing. Otherwise, well, the vast majority of Infinity's damage are just going to sort of walk off your big gotcha play.
Yeah, and look at this. Nick with the haste rune, popping the smoke, being obnoxious, running out. Very nice. Of course, a smoke already previously scouted out by 5RAT's vision, so a play that they were already very aware of. But all this really resulted in is Infinity taking the high ground. No tier 2s, no tier 2 damage either. It's where Infinity, sadly for them, despite having all of this power in the team fight, all these BKBs, they want the team fight, but 5RAT don't need to give it to them. Because unless you're pushing down a building, unless you're getting some damage, some successful push going, a 5RAT could really care less. But look at this.
Toss
There's
back.
the toss play, but he's got a remnant, and he's out.
Really would have loved to take another one of those charges away on the BKB, but Leo Style deciding, I'm okay with just the Remnant, and in fairness, he was, right? A lot of the times with the Ember, we walk that fine line, right, of maybe you should have just popped the BKB, and then he ends up kind of dying because of it, but with Leo Style, it feels like a lot more of the time the risky plays pay off in his favor.
Yeah, as well as 5RAT not wanting to just use a global for an Ember BKB, but look at this initiation.
Avo onto 3. They miss with the split earth though, but they're still onto Leo Style, and there's going to be the global coming out. They waited till the BKB was popped, so they still find the kill. They get Genic as well, and they're set up for, I think, a pretty easy Roche attempt. Yeah, they are just burning through, but is there anything Infinity want to try here? They're kind of, yeah, still hanging out. There's your buyback. Genic does have kisses. So now you got to show some respect to the ability of Infinity to get into the pit, and 5RAT decide we don't want to do this. We don't want to walk into the trap. I think they at least suspect that the buyback's available on Leo Style as well. So they decide to play it safe.
Yeah, it's also an awful position to be in if you're Infinity. Because, well, you look at this Roche, you say, oh, he's half HP. Can we do it? No, we cannot do Roche. We do not have the heroes to do that right now. So they just kind of have to awkwardly let that play die, even though Oscar is raring to go. Oscar has an Ags. He will make DNM's life a living hell. He cannot get any Essence Shift procs in the team fight, and another smoke coming out could find the punish onto Nick, but this is still them working for this kill in red 2.
Stun. Big stun comes out. Prada's dropped low. They'll take him down. They do end up having to sacrifice Nick, though, and AB1 goes down as well, but the buybacks are coming in. They're TPing onto the outpost. But at this point, Infinity are trying to regroup. They recognize that they've gone maybe a little bit too far in the opening of that fight, but now Oscar's going to push his way forward. There's that Uproar upgrade. He's going to push his way in. BKB activated. Pulverize onto the Tiny. Where's the rest of his team, though? Dodd's coming, eventually. And they do get the hook onto DNM. That's going to force out the ult immediately. And the regroup really kind of looked like the right idea. Infinity now have so much power in this fight, but they get split up for a second. There's the jump in. Dodd dropping low. Oscar trying to charge in to help him, but Dodd is still dropping. He's buying time with the dismember, but I think he's still going down. And at this point, Oscar, yeah, didn't have any HP left either. He's going to die. Global Silence comes through, so once the Sleight of Fist ends from the Ember, he is silenced up. Now he's caught by the Pounce. Now he's stunned by the Splitter. And the lockdown just follows one after another, and well, it's a little awkward there, ET. They had the right idea at the start. We've overextended. Let's regroup. Let's get back as 5. And then after they do that, Dodd just says, I'm going to go off by myself again, and they get punished for it.
Yeah, nope. They split up yet again. Speed tiptoes through the fight. He gets, I think, 2 mechs off in that entire engagement. I mean, with the team fighting at large, a second global feels like it comes through from AB1 just because of how long that fight took. And at the end of the day, 5RAT still get Roche? Like, this is crazy. And, of course, it did have to use the tiny buyback, but Nick got pretty much exactly what he wanted there. And I think Infinity just overestimated themselves without their BKBs playing versus Silencer. They just lost track of the kills for just a second, and now they're in a very difficult game. This is where you're finally over the hump. 5RAT have everything they need to kind of push for that next stage, while Infinity all still sitting on all of their BKBs. It's still fine, but it really isn't going to help you all that much, especially say if DNM looks for a BKB of his own. This is where the Sark is just going to start tearing you apart.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing coming back to there, talked about Dodd kind of laying a little bit of the blame at his feet just because he was the one who did get isolated, but his game almost went too well, right? He got this ring of health in lane, everything's looking good, and then he decides, you know what? I'm going to go straight for the Ags. I'm going to get the BKB after. So now, without the Vanguard that we normally see, once he's isolated, he doesn't actually live that long.
Yeah, it's a combination, I think, of greed and also maybe a plate mail missing from his inventory, but it's just difficult now for them to play this game. It's where 5RAT with this next Aegis, we could see them immediately push in. We could see them decide to stagnate the map in its entirety, just kind of stonewall Infinity, and then farm up a 10k gold lead before they fight again. Really, I think this has just been all too successful. And now, got so many big items that 5RAT are just going to look to build up, to look for. Red 2 after that fight is almost level 20 as well, so another huge power spike for the last track. All the cores are just having a great time. We're also getting into that realm of luxury where Speed has bought so many team-oriented defensive items. Now he can start being a little bit more selfish. He can look for items like AC, Hex, Orchid, and start being a completely different hero.
Feels good,
Just
Beavis.
very unfortunate for Infinity. It's where you would look for that immediate revenge play, but it's just not coming. Not to mention, AB1 almost has a full refresher. So, okay, maybe he uses the global to stop one of your spells. Well, guess what? He's going to have another global to stop the other spells. Okay, sure. The funniest silencer build in the world is just ending up working out. And look mid, looking for his BKB.
Oscar's trying to hold off. The charge does get him away, but look at Nick jumping in. There's that blink into the Avatar. Skenik is going to get pulled back and taken down. Leo style. Well, now his BKB will come out. But he has to pop his, so the whole point of that play for Infinity was trying to prevent Oscar from having to use Magic Immunity, and technically speaking, you accomplish that by only by using one on, honestly, a far more important hero, right? Leo style going in without his BKB is infinitely worse than Oscar trying to do the same.
It's not good. Infinity, they're kind of just scrambling. It's where they have to stay together as well. Leo style would love to split across the map and do his own thing, but without any easy form of dispel, it's where he's really going to be gunning for either a Stormcrafter or a Flicker once those tier 4s are up. And if he gets unlucky, well, that's kind of just the way it goes. But he can't even show on the other side of the map, because if he does, then Tiny TP's to a lane, then Sark comes, then they go for a kill on the Ember Spear without BKB. You can't even see Infinity really spread themselves out too thin. Otherwise, they lose all their team fight strength. So really, there's just no good answer. And 5RAT on the aggressive. They're looking for this play. No refresher up just yet on AB1. Still like 1,000 gold away. But looking for the engagement. And Ember, 10 seconds. I have to see, he's got a Remnant back, so has to be an extremely clean jump, and it looks like they're going to split up a little bit too much to get Leo style in the first round, even though Nick is not looking for Leo style, he's actually looking for the Remnant.
Good instinct. The problem is he doesn't have the manpower anymore to really make use of that. He does get the jump in, though. There's the Ava, there's the toss. The Split Earth is actually a little off the mark there, so Leo style jumps away. DNM, though, goes looking for him and
Actually jumps over him.
yeah. Good effort, but not quite able to make the play. Leo style, though, is not leaving. Still sticking around in this top lane. Set another Remnant out. Yeah, one even further back at this point, so taking no chances. But at the same time, 5RAT have decided we're done with the Wild Goose Chase. Let's push over onto the other side of the map, and oh, DNM. He pounces as Leo style was TPing in, so that does take the Ember out of the fight for just a moment, but here comes the response. Oscar is just trampling on everyone. Nick's going to get taken down. They do manage to get DNM out of there, but they've got to regroup. Red 2 falling back. Age is still up for a minute, but this isn't really where you want to use it. And they will be able to really keep the damage to just the Tiny.
Yeah, and I think a 5-rat, again, tested there with DNM, just not having the BKB is still extremely fragile in the fight. Even with the Depth Shroud down, even with his ulti, it can still die very easily. And it's daytime, where 5-rat don't really have that advantage compared to night. It's where all teams are going to look to play around and abuse that fact. But okay, most of this Aegis waited out. Gonna be gone in 30 seconds. Still looking for a play bottom because there's no tier 2 here. Would be a delayed response from Infinity, but again, DNM doesn't really want to overextend himself, and the Leshrac is showing top, so you kind of know what's going on right now. But the Aegis is gone, so Infinity could go for another smoke play if they have it. I think it's sitting on Prada right now, but we are getting this game drawn out, which is still what 5-rat want, what 5-rat are looking for. They're very happy with the way this game is going so far.
BB1 is so damn close to the refresher. They don't want to push all the way in just yet. That, though, is a nice little play. They jump in, they get the toss back, and Prada gets taken down, so... Well, I don't know. Prada hasn't really gotten too many opportunities to shine in this game, but he is still going to be useful with that Solar Guardian if it doesn't get canceled, so taking him away removes some of that defensive strength, and 5-rat, push forward, get the tower. The refresher recipe is right on out to AB1 in just a second here, so they may have lost the Aegis ET, but this is about as strong as they have been all game long. They've got map control, they've got 2 globals, and now looking at the Infinity roster, we were praising the early BKB purchases, but we've gotten to that awkward time. They're all on lowest duration.
Yeah, and with the BKBs being finished up by heroes like DNM, Infinity, who are pretty much all a magic-oriented lineup, where's your magic damage versus BKBs? It's just not really going to be there. It's where 5-rat are much more mixed. It's where they have those opportunities. And Dodd, he's going to be forced into BKB TPing. That's just going to happen. It's also where I think probably going to look for a Basher next for DNM, and then suddenly the Slark is going to be able to stick on some of these heroes. You either go for that or go for someone like the Scotty. Either really works at this point of the game. But Infinity are just kind of banking all in here on one good team fight to make their lives a little bit easier. But Prada, well, that's not getting too easy. Oscar tries to help, but doesn't end up mattering. He's going to be forced to BKB as well.
With the defensive hook coming through to make sure that he actually gets into the base, so... Well, again, Prada's the one to die, which does not hurt Infinity massively, but the problem is mitigating the damage is great, but if that's all you're doing, you're not doing anything aggressively, right? We have not seen Infinity go for that smoke play that you were sort of alluding to. We haven't seen them push out much. Their vision is very much starting to die off at this stage too, so it is getting a little bit rough, and you see Genek sort of hanging out in this area. Part of the reason why is this corridor in the top lane is kind of the only place that they can lock down at the moment.
Yeah, a place that is completely worded up by Albina Zebra One. He has just taken on so many observers in that area. They just are maintaining, I think, too much of the map. So much of the map, they're not even farming their side. The Dire Jungle has been unused for a very long time. That's also where Infinity would love to get a hero, seat somebody to farm what is just a dead jungle at this point, but there's just no way for them to escape. Prada's finally getting some time, though. Gets the D word, probably the safest D word he can, with the Pudge sitting behind him to hook him out. But a little bit of control finally goes their way, but then immediately somebody's going to go down, even though, okay, there's the global. Gets rid of it. Genek now has to make his way out, but Oscar just now got his BKB back up.
Okay. BKB means he should be able to get out of here. What's going on the backline? Leo Style tried to get onto Nick. He is going to give it another attempt, but the Depth Shroud is going to buy him some time. Now Kiss has come out, but a second global silence will cancel it. Oscar falls. Leo Style is in trouble. Leashed up, dropped low. Can he get the slight? Yes, he can, but doesn't have the mana to jump to a Remnant after. And Infinity now starting to see the consequences. They wait too long, then they say, hey, let's take this fight. There's 2 globals. Your big ults don't do anything anymore, and Well, they can't afford to lose much more. Prada's trying to get back into the base, but DNM gets the pounce. Dodd going to go for the defensive hook. Doesn't really hit anything, and that means Nick got the vision. BKB pop, though. Dodd is going to try to fight this out. Maybe he gets the kill onto Nick, but now he needs to make sure he gets back into the base. DNM does not want to let him go. But the Blink Dagger allows the Pudge to escape. That does mean Genek's kind of just stuck here for a bit. Okay, never mind. Good guy Dodd. May have blinked away from his teammate, but turns back around for the hook, and Infinity will survive with those two heroes. But while all that went down, Speed rotated top, took both the tier 1 and the tier 2.
Yeah. Great rotation in from Speed. Just very efficient with his time. Just still get something going for him. And he's got a full Hex. So, I mean, really, Speed can start his own engagements. He can chain stun in with the Leshrac. And more importantly, the Roche respawns. In a case where I think Infinity would love to fight this, but without a BKB on the Pudge, Dodd is going to have to wait for the rest of his lineup to go in first. He's going to have to buy a whole lot of time. And 5RAT don't want to go in headlong just yet. Red 2 is getting his full mana. DNM is also sitting there posturing, trying to abuse that nighttime. He's going to pop the smoke onto Prada. And the high ground ward's going to get placed, but look at this. Oh, he's dead so fast.
Well, he's not dead yet, actually. Still surviving for a while. That is going to create maybe an opening. Infinity try to push their way in, but Kiss is canceled immediately. Dodd gets taken down. Oscar in trouble. BKB is going to wear off in just a second here. He does pop the Uproar. That creates a little bit of separation, but that separation just means they're free to go onto Leo style. Not able to take him down, but there's going to be the play. Little Nick says,
good to be this good.
if your BKBs are down, I have free reign to initiate. He gets the toss back, and Oscar falls. Genek, I don't know about this one. He is going to try and get himself out. Is there a pounce? Yes, there is. TP canceled, and yeah, that was maybe a little overly ambitious there from the snap.
Yeah, just unfortunate, I think, to say the least. But that was also the worst way that could have gone down. Just great positioning from DNM to pop the smoke, but they find the BKB-less Dodd and Prada at the beginning. It just really couldn't be a worse jump for you at that point. And now the Roche, that was a fight that Infinity were looking for, even though it still was going to be a pretty big risk, ends up going to 5RAT for free. And I mean, ball is in their court. They've got pretty much everything they need at this point. Red 2's level 25 as well, so when it comes to pushing towers, a 5RAT can really just force Infinity. As soon as Glyph is used, we're probably looking at the eclipse of this game. I think that's where there's just too many items at this point. Red 2 has a Hex as well. I mean, it just keeps on adding up. Arcane Root to boot. I mean, this next push is going to be fearsome. And I don't know. Infinity are going to need to hook a hero that isn't Slark underneath tier 4s or kill both supports early. Otherwise, they're just going to get ripped apart by all of these abilities. And again, AB1, with the refresher, he's got it all back up. I mean, you already have the global talents, and you always take the global talents, so that's already not too long of a CD, but having two of them already up again, it's just a lot. Toss back, Genek.
It feels good.
That was weird. The hook did hit, but dies in the pullback, so kind of ends up dead in the middle, but that's one of your heroes dead. One who does have buyback, though. Right? They are going to be able to get Genek back into the fight if they need to, but well, when does the buyback get used? When do they feel like they have an opening? Do they somehow manage to get 5RAT to overextend here as Dodd tries to push his way in? The hook doesn't hit, though. Nick was able to get himself up in the air with the Cyclone, but now there's going to be the Global Silence. Oscar tried to push all the way in for the Pulverize, but now he's trapped too far forward, hexed up, taken down. Now a secondary hex onto Dodd. Going to be able to lock him down. Prada's trying to ult here, but it's just not going to be enough. Dodd goes down, and Dodd does not have buyback, so that's your Pudge out for, well, over a minute. And at this point, ET, over a minute may very well be the rest of the game, because Leo Style is going to get hit up as well. He goes down with no buyback. I don't think Infinity can really do much of anything anymore.
Yeah, no, I think try to stretch out there to maybe enable the backdoor protection to come back in, and they're getting fountain farmed at this point. Oscar's just going in. He doesn't have BKB. Secondary silence comes through, and I think they will get fountain farmed. Red 2 says, okay, well, let's go in, guys. I don't care about this, and yeah, he forces the GG because the supports are just going to get wrecked in the fountain. I mean, Red 2 quite literally said, I don't want to kill these buildings. It's over. Let's go kill them. Make them call GG. I mean, just a brutal victory.
Impressive stuff from the 5RAT side, and honestly, well, it plays out exactly the way that we kind of warned that it would. If Infinity did not pull away, if they didn't make the most of the lineup that they had, and they let their opponents farm, things weren't going to go well, and lo and behold, they let their opponents farm, and things don't go well.
Yeah, and they have this good idea on Infinity. They have this sick early game timing where Slark is invalidated. DNM doesn't have enough time to get 2 real items. It's impossible for him to actually team fight. But then you realize that, okay, we've still got this kind of dance we have to do with AB1 and the Global Silence just by default. Do we have enough damage to kill the Leshrac? And I think really what took them apart was speed on the Broodmother and just the effectiveness of him having those team fight and those team-oriented items where you're not getting the picks that you want. You're not getting that immediate lockdown. And that's something that Infinity were always going to struggle with in this game, was actually executing their lineup in getting the first stun, getting that setup, actually landing with your abilities. Whereas the Silencer throws a whole new wrench into the works, but even by default here, Infinity struggle with lockdown unless Oscar finds his person and then stays on him. But as soon as Leshrac gets a BKB, that's blown wide open. And then they miss their timing, and then the game drags on. And this game is 10 minutes too late for Infinity to realistically win it. It's also where as soon as Infinity end up in that slow rolling game, what are they going to do? Get a tier 2, force Roche? Their heroes just simply don't do it. It's where they're too all in on that team fight, and then the team fights just don't come.
And for AB1, I mean, led the game in assists. This right here, this Philosopher's Stone really just helps push everything so much further forward, because the timing on his refresher was honestly perfect for 5RAT, and it wasn't supposed to be, right? A position 5 silencer with 0 farming priority has no business getting a full refresher orb when he does, but the team fight gold helps, the Philosopher's Stone pushes it forward a bit, and then you're just too strong.
Yeah, I think love the ideas with the Dawnbreaker, but coming into game 2, would love to see Infinity go for a different opener. Try to flex maybe a different muscle, because, I mean, even just leading from that first phase, we were feeling good about 5RAT's draft.
Yep. We'll see what Infinity do to shake things up here after dropping the first match. So we'll be stepping aside for just a bit, but when we come back, it will be the start of that game 2 draft. So stick around, and we'll be back in a bit.